It's April 26th, 2025. Jarren Duran takes off from third. He risks taking the bat out of Rafael Devers' hands on the off chance that starter Doug Nikhazy doesn't notice. It's Nikhazy's first MLB start, and he's already given up 5 runs, including an RBI double to Devers last inning. So why is Duran gambling away a chance for his best teammate to do some more damage? Jarren, how could you do something so insane?
Here's the throw! He is safe!
Well, you don't need to answer that question when you score. This is the only successful straight steal of home so far this year. There have been just 3 attempts in over 5 months of games across the entire league. The straight steal of home is the most exciting play in baseball. There are arguments to be made about the inside the park homer, triple play, clutch hit, clutch strikeout, diving catch, so on and so forth. But there's a reason the Sandlot ends with Benny the Jet Rodriguez stealing home. Baseball is a game of consecutive one-on-one matchups between batter and pitcher. The entire sport is one guy trying to throw the ball past another. But just for one play, that dichotomy is totally removed. If he's crazy enough, the runner on third base can become the center of the universe at any given moment.
Here he comes! Steal of home, and he will do it!
I think about Javi Baez baiting the throw down to third and taking home in the 2016 NLCS. Jacoby Ellsbury catching Andy Pettitte off guard on Sunday Night Baseball. Jackie Robinson's most iconic play in the 1955 World Series. It's the perfect intersection of guts, athleticism, and pure madness. Besides the excitement and uniqueness of stealing home, it's also statistically the most underrated play in baseball. Teams should be attempting it more frequently, both straight steals and double steals. There are some caveats, but it wouldn't shock me to see an analytically savvy team start taking off from third more often. I compiled each of the 177 logged attempts at stealing home from MLB Film Room from the start of the 2020 season to September 9th of this year. Out of those, only 14 have been straight steals. Thankfully, I'm a YouTuber and not a statistician, so I can derive my conclusions based on small sample sizes. And as long as it's entertaining, I've done my job. Unfortunately for me, understanding what makes stealing home so underutilized requires a decent amount of math. The entire foundation of this video, as well as the foundation of modern baseball analysis, is run expectancy. This is a basic base out state run expectancy matrix from Ben Clemens of Fangraphs. I can feel your eyes glazing over already, but this concept isn't that complicated. Based on the number of outs and position of base runners, this chart explains the average number of runs scored from that state to the end of an inning. The matrix I'm using is the average from 2021 to 2024. Every inning starts off with no outs and no runners on. The run expectancy is half a run, because on average, teams scored 1 run every 2 innings of hitting from 2021 to 2024. Based on the outcome of each play, the run expectancy shifts up or down. A leadoff out drops run expectancy to 0.27. and a leadoff single or walk bumps it up to 0.9. Just to be clear, this isn't the probability that a run scores. This is the average number of runs scored by teams in the inning after this state. A team doesn't have a 90% chance of scoring with a man on first and nobody out. It's much lower than that. But sometimes, a leadoff single sparks a big rally with multiple runs. Other times, no runs score. It all adds up and averages out to 0.9 runs per inning after a man on first, no out scenario. With bases loaded and nobody out, the run expectancy is 2.38 runs. With no one on and 2 out, the run expectancy is 0.1. Those are the most extreme base out states. And they make sense logically. The biggest drawback is that these figures are only based on outs and runners. Depending on the batter, pitcher, pitch count, and every other factor, the true pitch-to-pitch run expectancy will vary tremendously, but that doesn't invalidate the usefulness of these matrices. Run expectancy is essential for understanding how important each play is to scoring. It's the reason we can estimate how much more value a single has than a walk. A single with the bases empty is no different. With a man on first, a single can advance them to third. With a man on second or third, a single can score a run. That's not possible with a walk. The same applies to doubles, triples, and homers. And for the purposes of this video, run expectancy helps us understand the value of stolen bases. If you're somewhat interested in the statistical world of baseball, you probably have some preconceived notions about the value of stealing. Brad Pitt tells Terrence Long in Moneyball,
"No, I pay you to get on first, and I get thrown out a second."
But analytics aren't inherently anti-base stealing, as long as you're good at it. The general rule of thumb has been 75% success rate for stealing bases, but that has fluctuated over time. In the year of the pitcher and the dead ball era, getting caught stealing wasn't as detrimental because there were fewer extra base hits, making it more rare for runners to score from first base. Now that homers are a very common method of scoring, it's more of a gamble to get caught going from first to second, since a homer scores the runner from either base just the same. Using our 2021 to 2024 run expectancy matrix, we can break down the true value of stealing different bases in different situations. Let's go back to a man on first and nobody out. Run expectancy is 0.9. If he steals second, that increases to 1.14. That's a 0.24 run increase. But if he gets thrown out, the run expectancy drops to 0.27. That's a drop of 0.63 runs. I won't bore you with the details, but based on an algebraic system of equations, we can find the point where teams are breaking even on each stolen base attempt. As you can see, the required success rate of stealing second with nobody out is roughly 72%. We can do the same with the other base out states. It's also roughly 72% with one out, and it drops slightly to 70% with two out. Stealing third is where things get interesting. If you ever played baseball at any level, you've probably heard your coaches say, never make the first or third out at third. This data proves them right. The required success rate of stealing third base is significantly lower with one out than with 0 or 2 outs. There are many ways to move a runner from second to third, provided the batter has an out to spare. Ground outs to the right side, singles, bunts, wild pitches, tagging on fly balls, etc. The same applies for moving a runner from third to home. But with 2 outs, the sac fly and ground out can never score that run. So giving up an out to move a runner from second to third while there's already 1 out isn't worth the sacrifice. With no outs, there are easier ways to get to third than stealing. And with 2 outs, getting to third isn't even worth it. Therefore, the only time stealing third makes much sense at all is with 1 out. All of this is to say that different levels of success are required to steal bases depending on the base out state. And if you examine this chart, you'll notice that stealing home has the biggest variance from 0 to 2 outs. Stealing home with no outs is the only attempt more risky than stealing third with 2 outs. And that's obvious when you think about how many different ways a runner can score from third when the offense has 3 outs to work with. But the 4 lowest break-even rates on this matrix are all attempts at stealing home with 2 outs. A single base runner on third base with 2 outs only has to succeed 35% of the time he tries stealing home. That's because the only way to score from this state is a base hit, wild pitch, or error. And if a bad hitter is hitting, that number likely falls below 30%. When a bad hitter gets behind in the count, it could fall below 20% or even 10%. So why have there only been 14 straight steals of home attempted in the 2020s? Under 3 per season across the entire league. There are 2 reasons. Stealing home is hard, and getting caught is embarrassing. I'll break down those reasons after a word from our sponsor, Arena Club. If you're into collecting and trading cards, Arena Club is changing the game with their slab packs and no-fee auctions. Arena Club is my go-to site for all things cards. With slab packs, you can rip packs starting at $25 and up, and each pack has grails worth 20 times the price of the pack. They offer full transparency, showing you every single card available in the pack and the odds of pulling each one, so you know exactly what's available before you buy. You can rip your packs right here online. And we got a Chuck Klein. As you can see, Arena Club makes you an instant offer based on the estimated value of your card, or you can send it to your digital showroom. From there, you can auction, trade, sell, or retrieve your physical card. Yes, even though the packs are digital, the cards themselves are real. Right now, you can get 20% off your first Slab Packer card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/ATB and using code ATB at checkout. That's 20% off your first Slab Packer card purchase with code ATB at checkout at arenaclub.com/ATB. Thanks so much, Arena Club! First and foremost, there's already a very specific set of conditions required to make a viable attempt at stealing home. Watching back the straight steal attempts that I logged, as well as past successful steals of home, the vast majority are a result of the pitcher or catcher not paying attention to the runner. The pitcher is almost always a lefty, and more often than not, they're pitching out of the windup or have a very slow delivery home. Or, like this play by Christian Yelich, the catcher makes a loopy, lazy throw back to the pitcher and Yelich times it up. Yelich going with one out and Willy Adames up is the second riskiest attempt, but he had catcher Nick Fortes timed up perfectly. Pitcher Ryan Weathers caught the throw back and threw home as quickly as possible, and Yelich still got in there safely. Most of these runners probably noticed the pitcher or catcher's tendency to get lazy on video. He only went in this situation because he was 100% sure that he would be safe. That's the second riskiest attempt. Let's talk about the first. It was September 1st, 2023. With runners on second and third and one out, Eddie Rosario took off for home as Julio Urias came set. Urias was only alerted once Rosario was halfway home, and he threw a bad ball to the plate, and he still got Rosario out. Michael Harris II, who was having a big second half, was batting in an 0-1 count with MVP Ronald Acuna Jr. on deck. The Braves' run expectancy dropped over a full run when Rosario got thrown out. This was after Urias allowed a homer, a walk, and a double earlier in the inning. Now, he only needed one more good pitch to escape further damage. And of course, Acuna homered to lead off the top of the third. Ultimately, the Braves still won this game, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But this is the main reason that these attempts aren't tried more often. This is a very embarrassing way to kill a rally. Plus, it conveys a lack of trust in your teammate who's currently batting. But still, I don't think this is a bad decision because he got caught. I think it's a bad decision because of the situation. Most of the other failed attempts at straight steals were good decisions. My favorite attempt of them all came in August of 2020. Andrew Velazquez entered as a pinch runner for the Orioles, and with 2 outs, he led off of third base. At the plate, Chris Davis, coming off 2 of the worst seasons in modern MLB history. After Davis takes a 1-2 ball, Velazquez takes off for home on JT Realmuto's throw back to the pitcher. He's initially called safe, but the play is reviewed and eventually overturned. Even though he was out, no exaggeration, I would want him to attempt this steal every single time. Sean Doliner of Fangraphs developed a run expectancy tool for specific batters back in 2016. It's essentially our basic run expectancy matrix, but with weights for the batter's WOBA and the league's run scoring environment. First, I plugged in the average number of runs scored per team in 2020. Then, I used Chris Davis's WOBA in 1-2 counts versus lefty pitchers over the final 4 seasons of his career. That's a 200 plate appearance sample where he had a 165 WOBA. This model tells us that the Orioles' run expectancy in this situation is 0.014 runs. This means that Velazquez only needs to be successful 1.27% of the time here for it to be worth attempting a steal. And he almost scored. Realmuto made an incredible tag to save the run, and it took a replay to overturn the call. If he tried this 100 times, he would definitely be safe more than once. With a bad hitter, 2 strikes, and a lefty pitcher or a catcher getting lazy, a fast runner on third should absolutely roll the dice. The basic chart says they need to be successful 35% of the time, but as I just showed, in certain situations that number drops much lower. In the 14 attempted straight steals of home, teams have gained 1.86 expected runs. That's 8 successes and 6 failures, most of which came with bad hitters up in pitchers' counts. So the true run expectancy gain is probably much larger. Before I did any math, I hypothesized that it would be worth it for teams to try to do this more often when the conditions were right. And I still think that's the case. I mean, look at the numbers. But when you get at the root of a successful steal of home, the logic does fall apart a bit. If your favorite team or favorite player becomes the team or player who steals home, it becomes infinitely harder to do it successfully. When Duran's on third base now, every lefty knows it. It's in the back of their minds that he might take off, and they'll absolutely be more conscious of varying their set times. And with Duran on third, forget about pitching from the windup. A team can absolutely benefit from more aggression from third base temporarily, but as soon as opposing defenses pick up on it, the odds of successfully straight stealing home drop drastically. The only way this play usually works is catching the battery by surprise or hoping for a defensive miscue. So I just left you with a fun hypothetical that we'll never see implemented. But what about double steals? Since 2020, teams have attempted 160 double steals of home with a man on first and third. Most of these attempts are runners on first breaking for second and then freezing on the throw down as the runner on third takes off for home. It also includes plays where runners on first got picked off and got into a rundown and the runner on third attempted to steal, since most of these rundowns are by design. This is a much more common play than the straight steal of home. Defenses are definitely prepared for it. Players know to expect the double steal starting in high school. Second basemen and shortstops know to check the runner at third as the throw is being made down to second. And catchers know they have the option to pump fake the throw down and throw behind the runner at third. Some teams won't even throw down a second, depending on the situation. Out of the 160 attempts I've logged, 81 have been successful and 79 have been failures. Looking at run expectancy, teams have netted 12.18 runs on attempted double steals of home. Most of the time, on a successful attempt, the runner on third scores and the runner on first ends up on second. Sometimes, in the case of bad throws, the runner on first gets to third. Assuming every success ends up with a run scored and a man on second, this play only has to succeed 38% of the time to be worth attempting with 2 outs. And again, with a bad runner in a bad count, that break-even rate only goes down. A 160 play sample isn't massive over 5 years, but it's much more reliable than the 14 play sample of straight steals, and teams have been successful double stealing home over half of the time. This is a play that should be attempted even more often than it currently is. Unlike the straight steal of home, which requires the element of surprise, this play still works over half the time despite teams practicing to counter it on defense. Bad throws, drop catches, and perfect timing by the runners can all result in this play scoring a run. Here's Bryce Harper doing it in the 2023 NLCS, one of the many times he's stolen home in his career. Going back to the very beginning of this video, I said Duran was the only runner to straight steal home this year, but in my research, I discovered that Harper also kind of straight stole home this year. With Richard Fitz going out of the windup, this play technically didn't count as a steal because catcher Carlos Narvaez caught the pitch in front of home plate, turning this into a catcher's interference balk. But the intent was to steal home, and Harper scored a run, so we can add that to our straight steal data, making this now 9 of 15. The note on that is that my method of data acquisition is not flawless. I tried to run code to find the steals of home, and I couldn't get that to work either. None of the databases that I usually use for these videos track this either. So if anybody from StatHead or Fangraphs or Savant is watching, please in the future track stolen bases. This 20+ minute video is all to say that stealing home is awesome and that teams should try it a little more. It may be embarrassing to fail, more so than most other failures in baseball, but this is a rare time where the math directly backs up the increased usage of a very aggressive and exciting base running technique. And before I leave you, I want to break down my absolute favorite steal of home so far in the 2020s. It's October 7th, 2021. ALDS Game 1 between the Rays and the Red Sox. Josh Taylor is facing Brandon Lau, one pitch away from escaping a two-runner jam. The broadcast notes that third base runner Randy Arozarena is taking massive leads with the infield shifted to the right side.
He can walk as far as he needs as well as Devers is away from the bag.
Taylor's pitching out of the stretch, so if Randy wants to go, he has to time it up perfectly. Taylor was keeping an eye on Randy, but with Devers so far off the bag, he already had a monster primary lead. Taylor's set is slow and includes a timing toe tap, and with such a big pitch coming up in the loud Tropicana Field dome, he didn't hear his teammates shouting to step off until it was too late.
There goes Arozarena! He steals home!
Taylor knew this was possible. Devers knew it was possible. Alex Cora knew this was possible. The broadcast talked about how possible it was for 3 whole minutes before it happened. Arozarena knew they were paying attention to him, and he still went for the big play. Be more like Randy. Go for it. Don't be afraid of getting thrown out. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed. The Google Sheet document I made with all the logged stolen base of home attempts, run expectancy, break-even rates, and team breakdowns is available now to my channel members. You can hit that join button down below for $4 a month to support the channel, get early access to videos, and access to my members only content, plus a shout out at the end of each video. Speaking of which, shout out to Misty, Zach G, Ethan, Alex, Mammoth, Zach E, Vikram, El Quacko, JJ, John, Ryan, Jackson, Flyatori, Basti, Sophie, Vifi, Okedembawai, GF, Wavy, Perdower, Lorenzo, and Floof. Thanks so much for the support. It truly means the world to me.